What is the most powerful item we have had in RuneScape? Voidwaker Blade? Osmupton's Fang? Surely a mega rare like Twisted Bow or Tunic Shadow, right? All incredible choices to be sure, but what about another? An item that has been available for so long that so many would not even remember when it was first introduced. An item worth all the effort to extract value from it. That item, of course, being the Black Mask. Released in 2006, the Black Mask was undoubtedly one of the most dominant items ever introduced in all of RuneScape, with the introduction of Mostly Harmless. It grants the wearer an immense buff in accuracy and damage, so long as the enemy has been assigned by a Slayer Master. But what is the Black Mask, and why do these creatures wear them? Today, we're going to explore that and more as we delve into one of the greatest threats to all of RuneScape. It is known by many names: Texcasathla, the 100-handed one, Xau-Tak. Welcome to Enigmas of RuneScape. Do not be afraid, my child, for you are not alone. Your voice will be one of thousands, singing in eternal silence. And so, another voice joins the silent choir. That is the future that awaits us if Xau-Tak is allowed to continue. A dark, cold, infinite nothingness. But beyond that, we know very little about Xau-Tak itself. It is a shrouded mystery that we only have in recent years even truly learned its name. But its influence has been present upon Gielinor for many ages, starting with the Blackstone. Veterans of RuneScape may remember in 2006 the introduction of Mostly Harmless and the coveted, iconic Black Mask, arguably one of the most powerful items to ever exist to this day. Along with the mask was an out-of-place totem found within the town. It appears to be carved of the same jet black stone as the masks of the horrors that inhabit the island. So what are these creatures, and what is this black stone? The ape-like inhabitants of Mostly Harmless are known as the Mwanu, a necromantic and cannibalistic tribe of savages that descend from a realm known originally as Jermine, where the races of apes and monkeys had also originated from. The Black Stone is a part of their worship to a god whom they call Texcasathla. This is very important as the name likely derives from real-world gods and can give a subtle hint about this deity. Texcasathla is believed to be a mix between Tezcatlipoca, the Aztec god of the night sky, hurricanes, obsidian, and conflict, and Ubosathla, a Lovecraftian, formless mass blob. If this is true, there are many links between Gielinor that match the mythos of these two gods that we will come to see in this deep dive. The most obvious to discuss is Tezcatlipoca's association with obsidian, a likewise black material. It is not clear to us what this black stone is or what it is capable of fully on Mostly Harmless. However, during Desert Treasure 2, as we uncover the horrors within the Undercity of Lasar, we meet an Imcandorian dwarf survivor of the Rune Crusades by the name of Ketla. With her help, we discover many secrets to Blackstone as we recover the Whisperer's key to the ancient vault. One exchange of the conversation is of particular note. Can you tell me any more about this entity? It is beyond our understanding. It exists in the shadows, and there it should remain. But the Blackstone is like a blade. It cuts through into our world. Blackstone? It comes from the shadows as well. It holds a great power, and many have tried to use it, not knowing the cost of doing so. Is that what happened here? Yes. They were studying the totem, but in doing so, they followed in our footsteps, dooming their city. Followed in your footsteps? But it wasn't the Blackstone that destroyed Camdozel, was it? Camdozel was not the first home of my people. From a young age, we are all taught of the fall of Imcandoria, of the disaster that claimed our city. But down here, I have seen the truth. It was no volcano that destroyed our home. It was the totem. The same totem that's now here? Did it follow us, or did we follow it? Are we fated to be its victims forevermore, or will the cycle end here? It will soon be time to find out. So the Blackstone is a material that comes from the shadows and allows for one to interact with the shadows as well. We have also learned of the connection Blackstone has to the god of the necromantic Mwanu and the silent choir to be one and the same. The parallels of Blackstone and dominion over the shadows to Tezcatlipoca's obsidian and dominion over the night sky exhibit a strong connection in design themes. The story Ketla is referring to is the fall of Imcandoria, which was their original kingdom before settling Camdozel beneath the ice mountain. It was possible to learn the story in 2018 with the release of Dragon Slayer 2, and consequently, the Myth Guild. It was here we could find a book called Imcandoria's Fall, which chronicles the dark events that transpired and was written by High Seer Goldbrand of the Isles of Garmur, likely near the island known as Acheron, north of the Fremenic mainland. It reads as follows: I, High Seer Goldbrand of the Isle of Garmur, have assembled various entries detailing the fall of Imcandoria. I leave this tome in the entrance hall of our great necropolis. Heed my warning, reader, and do not travel into that frozen wasteland. All that awaits is death. 6/19, 19/9/17. One of the acolytes discovered a strange idol along the beach today. It has the oddest markings scratched upon it, much akin to the runic rocks of the Fremenic. The elders of Imcandoria will know what to do with such a relic, so the other seers and I have agreed that it will be sent to them immediately. 6/19/19/13/0. It has been 2 moons since we sent the idol away, and the storms have turned increasingly ferocious. We have gone below into the lower necropolis, hoping to seek refuge in the Forge of Giants. 6/19/19/13/5. The Giants allowed us to stay in their domain. However, our time here is limited by our food stores, for no edible food can be produced in these horrible depths. In 3 moons, we will return to the surface and attempt the journey into Imcandoria. There, we will begin our search for answers. The Giants have seen omens of death in the forges and have suggested we go with reinforcements. They've given us a bright, fiery jewel that we can use to bargain with the Uspa tribes around Imcandoria. 6/19/19/17/19. The city is empty. There are sounds coming from the temple. We approach with caution. 7/00/00. The temple was a scene from a nightmare. Piles of bodies, pools of blood. A large globulous mass sat hungrily on the throne of oily black rock. A shock of tentacles capped with claws dangled above its three pulsing bulbous eyes. The elders circled around the creature, chanting incantations in a strange, unknown tongue, covered head to toe in a mixture of blood and thick, black sludge. They paid us no attention until the creature noticed our presence and began screaming. A fight soon broke out, and the temple quickly turned into a blaze, the flames licking the ceiling. The harsh cackle from the elders as they burned pierced our minds with unimaginable terror. We are none the wiser of how that thing came to be, but that idol must have been far older than we first assumed. 70003. We fled back to the Isle of Garmer. We have suffered many losses, but the storm has quieted, and thus returning home was far easier. All the land surrounding Imcandoria is now blanketed with a very thick layer of snow. It shows no signs of change, and thus we must leave. The Encanto dwarves had found the Blackstone totem originally, and some may have been possessed to take it with them according to the word of Sliske. Something important to note is the description of the large globulous mass of a monster. For one, this shares many similarities to the description of the Lovecraft being Ublo-Sathla, who is described in the fictional stories as a huge protoplasmic mass. Could the elders have summoned some eldritch god upon Runescape? This would be unlikely, as the lead story developer for Old School, Ed, has expressed a strong desire for gods and likely more powerful beings to never actually be in the game like RuneScape 3. So, as we will discuss in the case of a being known as Mur later, this perhaps is a weaker portion of the original being or something else entirely, similar to how Saren severed a portion of herself that we fought in the Song of the Elves. Before we continue past our discussion with Ketla, it is important we examine her circumstances further. She is quite knowledgeable on the topic of Blackstone during her survival within the Undercity. However, she seems almost suspiciously like an expert of the shadows. If one were to explore the building she resided in, they would find a skeleton upon the top floor whose examined text seems to suggest a dwarven remain. We know of no other dwarf to venture beneath Camdozel save for Ketla. If true, then this means we are already speaking to either the Master of Deception himself, the Majorat Sliske, or one of his many puppets. He is the very reason the totem is present within Lasar, and he is the cause for its influence to corrupt the Undercity, as we hear from many memories found throughout the quest, where we see Sliske's and the Whisperer's silhouettes. Let's take a listen to these dialogues. What am I looking at here? An answer? To what question? What lies beyond? You don't mean... Yes. Where was it found? The dwarves of Acheron uncovered it. They lost their home as a result. They fled south, but some remained under its control. They brought it with them. What became of these dwarves? They succumbed. It had no further use for them. Could it do the same to us? I have shielded it. It will do you no harm. Then we'd better not waste time. There are resources that can be diverted, though there will be pushback. It will be dealt with. My companion will remain to oversee your research. She will ensure that you face no barriers. I see. I'll ensure work begins at once. There's a lot to unpackage in this exchange. One of the most important things we should note is that Sliske is known as a master of the realm of shadows. as was the case in both RuneScape 3 and during Old School's Desert Treasure 2, in the case of the assassin he controlled. The next fascinating detail is in the phrase, what lies beyond. Take what I say now with a grain of salt, as this is just a theory, but Sliske may be referring to Erebus in this answer. Much of what we know about Erebus comes from RuneScape 3. While we personally do not care what happens there for Old School's story, it is important that we understand the similarities it may share in our game, as both draw inspiration from one another. Sliske is a perfect example of a villain developed long after 2007's backup in RS3, and vice versa. We see that RS3 has newer bosses such as Vorkath. Erebus is some sort of mirror universe to that of RuneScape. It is not a domain created by the Elder God Sisters, and may allegedly have its own form of beings that may rival the Elder Gods in some way. While concepts such as shadow anima should never and probably will never exist in old school RuneScape, it is pretty safe to assume that Erebus must exist, or else one of the most iconic groups of creatures in RuneScape's history will have to be retconned. The race in question is that of the Chthonian Demons. The Chthonian Demons are an umbrella classification for many races of beings, such as the Abyssal Demons, Necrials, the Penance of the Barbarian Assault, and even Duke Succellus, to name only a few examples. We learn in RS3 that these beings were originally native to Erebus before they somehow came to end up in Infernus and rule over the Avernic natives of that plane. They likely came to have the name of a demon like the Avernics simply due to the history of how they came to Gielinor in the Second Age under the command of Zaros. The last notable thing we learn about Erebus is the significance it holds to the Zarosian religion. While it is unexplained how they came to learn of Erebus's existence, whether by memories of Chthonians still held or other means, the followers believed in Erebus as an afterlife of sorts, including the Majorat. If this still holds true in Old School, then it begins to make sense what Sliske is discussing with the researcher. It is not difficult to imagine that when Sliske says that the Blackstone totem is an answer to what lies beyond, that he might mean life after death, or in the Zarosians' case, Erebus. This last portion is a lot of speculation, but this could mean that the black totems of Tezcatlipoca are linked to Erebus itself. This begs the question, though, just how powerful a threat might Tezcatlipoca be? To answer that, let's look at an unexpected story of Guthix and Mur. The story of Mur comes from two sources within RuneScape 3. One in a book known as The King and the Queen, and the other is a memory Guthix has of this event. This story's implications would require us to put on a tinfoil hat, as nothing about Mur is confirmed. However, it has relevance to old school RuneScape, as the consequences of the story have existed within the game since before 2007. Before Guthix arrived upon Gielinor, he had visited a realm named Renmark. He found Renmark to be beautiful, but he discovered a corruption upon the plane that he attempted to cut down with the Elder Blade. The ending of the King and Queen reads as follows. Then one day a visitor came to the world of Renmark. He was a mighty swordsman whose name was Guthix. Guthix had come to fight a monster which lived deep beneath the ground. The monster, whose name was Mur, lived inside the world, eating it from the inside out. When Guthix stabbed it with his sword, the monster was driven out, but the whole world exploded into pieces. The story as told by Guthix saw events a little different. Calamity, I underestimated the ability of the blade. I have sundered a planet. It was a world of divine beauty and fabulous magic, a realm of wild nature where four ruling courts of the seasons were in constant conflict, yet maintained a tumultuous balance of power. Yet, at the core of this world of light, I witnessed a great darkness, a corrupt, ravenous presence, a bloated parasite that fed voraciously on the living, whose appetite could not be satisfied. Arrogantly, I sought to cut that devouring corruption from its host. Instead, I destroyed the planet, shattering its fragments across the cosmos. Worst of all, I fear my actions have released the corruption from its prison. Its tendrils entwine the threads of mortality. It has taken root in pathways I have opened. There are many places I now dare not travel, for fear that corruption may probe deeper into the cosmos and find a new host. I have sought out the elements of the sundered world. Some of them endure, a land of perpetual light and one of eternal winter, and a periphery where neither can endure the other. But there are large fragments of Renmark I have been unable to locate. I can only hope that some of its inhabitants may have survived my hubris. Renmark's pieces still exist today in old school RuneScape in the form of the Enchanted Valley and the Squirk minigame, to name a few. Because of this, there's strong evidence to believe that this story is still accurate within old school RuneScape. So why does any of this matter with regards to Xau-Tak? The answer lies in the choice of words Guthix used to call the planet a prison for Mur. If it was feasting upon the planet's anima, why would that be considered a prison? The answer is not clear, but the fact that developers chose this phrasing deliberately can help us to compare Xau-Tak to Mur during the events of Daemonheim in RuneScape 3. For the unfamiliar, the skill of dungeoneering in RuneScape 3 is similar to the Crystal Gauntlet minigame, where players would defeat a boss after gathering and creating gear on that dungeon floor. You would delve deeper below the surface of Gielinor, following in the footsteps of its architect, a Zamorakian Majorat named Bilrak. Bilrak was urged to excavate deeper into the planet by a whispering voice that he believed to be Zamorak. Although this story deserves its own full video topic, if the lore were to ever be made canon within Old School, the important thing we learned was that the voice was none other than Xau-Tak himself, attempting to be freed upon Gielinor. We know this because of a Calgarian demon named Yor-Gur. These demons are also a very long story for another day. What is important, though, is that Yor-Gur is under the command of a clear follower of Xau-Tak named Kranin, and his lore texts mention his group's failure at Daemonheim. Let's take a listen. This is humiliating. To be brought to this, to be bargaining with these disgusting, fallen things. My Avernic shell itches and crawls, and a fire burns deep in its belly. I long to be rid of it, but I must endure. But so it is. Our plans to summon the 100-handed one in Daemonheim failed due to the intervention of the Guardians of Guthix. Perhaps this Kranin can succeed where we failed. If he does so, we will take the power of the 100-handed one for ourselves and use it to reclaim our rightful homeworld. So here I stand, Yor-Gur, scion of an Infernus, bowing and scraping and entreating an ambassador to monsters. This clearly links Xau-Tak to the 100-handed one as one in the same. This begs the question of how Bilrak was going to summon Xau-Tak by digging beneath Gielinor, until one recalls the story of Renmark and a corruption being trapped within the heart of the planet. There is a strong possibility that a similar corrupted being is within Gielinor's heart as well, that was attempting to trick Bilrak into freeing it. I am not convinced that this is Xau-Tak directly, as the theories behind the Black Stones, if proven to be true, would suggest Xau-Tak is located on Erebus currently. However, it is possible these corruptions are proxies of himself that allows himself to venture out of Erebus and empower himself. It would explain why Guthix felt that the corruption was not destroyed fully, and it shares more similarities to the lore of Ubolo Safla, as this primordial mass also lived deep within the interior of the earth. As neatly as this theory falls into place, it is a big reach to believe that this is all correct, but the implications of the connection between Mur and Xau-Tak likely exist one way or another, regardless if they are the same being. This brings us back to the question what Xau-Tak might be. No true answer exists to the question, but Mur is a clue. See, the name bears striking resemblance to the names of the elder gods Jas, Wen, Bull, and Bick, who all similarly have three-lettered names with one vowel in them. Other beings have recently been named within Erebus that also possess similar names. One such being is Voss. This does not necessarily mean that Mur or Xau-Tak are elder gods themselves. However, there's a strong possibility that they are somehow counterparts to the elder god sisters. Besides the name, Xau-Tak has shown other feats of power that have proven it greater than any other god. The most obvious example is the ability to remove the curse of Jas from Dragonkin. One of these Dragonkin, as we talked about earlier, was named Cranon. He was freed from his curse in exchange for servitude. We learn this through one of his lore journals that reads as follows: Salvation came not from the light, but from the shadows. We are scared of the dark because it shows us that nothing is set in stone, that nothing is written. The darkness shows us that the world can be anything, anything we wish it to be, whereas the light just says this is what it is. The light is a lie. It is a new set of chains trapping us to the world as it is, but the darkness tells us, make the world what it should be. I felt his presence in the shadows. He reached out a hand forged of black stone, and he tore the chains from my soul. Then he laid the hand upon my heart and cut a line down my chest. It should have hurt, but there was no pain, only purpose. I reached inside my own chest, and I pulled free my heart, for I did not need it. I took out my lungs, because I was no longer bound to the air. I placed inside me a piece of his world, because only then can I truly be free. No other gods possess the power to free the Dragonkin from their curse themselves. The only other way Dragonkin were able to defeat the curse while remaining truly Dragonkin was by Karapak destroying the Stone of Jas itself, using elder artifacts, which may never come to pass in old school Runescape. It is not so simple to try to relate Xau-Tak or any other potential god of Erebus to the elder gods, as we are not meant to comprehend its power. It is by design meant to be shrouded in mystery, as one of the developers for RuneScape 3 even categorized Xau-Tak's godhood tier jokingly as the square root of -1, or an imaginary number. But perhaps there is one other case that may link Xau-Tak to the Elder Gods, even if indirectly. Oddly enough, this story takes us to the origins of Amascut, the Devourer. While the story of the Devourer is yet another whole video in itself, we will want to focus on how Amascut came to be the finale within the raid of Tombs of Amascut. Amascut is the daughter of Tumakin and Eladinus, and the sister of Ichclairin. She is the feline goddess of rebirth that was born from the divine energy of her parents as they bestowed it upon their pet cat and dog. As her brother took care of those who passed on, she would take them to their new life. This dynamic remained until the Second Age, when Zaros arrived upon Gielinor, and the war between the Zarosians and the Caridinians began. The Zarosians were initially winning the war, and Ichclairin was becoming desperate. In his search for an advantage to the war, he was somehow able to travel to the planet of Runescape, where he found the Majorat with his sister accompanying him. Ichclairin barely managed to rally the Majorat to his cause. However, Amascut had wandered towards the volcano where the deformed elder god Ma and the old elder halls resided. Nobody is certain what happened next, but Amascut at this point in time had become insane and corrupted by some influence, and she slowly devolved into the Devourer. Instead of aiding the cycle of death and rebirth, she had now broken the chain and claimed the souls of her victims instead. This will be an important detail later on that we will return to, but what could have possibly corrupted a deity? Could it have been Ma? Unlikely. Saren has never shown signs of having been corrupted, and while Zaros is possible, he initially helped look after Ma before coming to despise her in RuneScape 3, without showing signs of derangement like the Devourer. If anything, Amascut would have had to lose her sanity just by her exposure to Ma's power without much explanation. But her sanity... that sounds familiar, doesn't it? It sounds like one of the core mechanics of the battle with the Whisperer. Perhaps that is coincidence, but there is strong evidence that may support this crazy theory. The most clear link between Amascut's corrupting and Xau-Tak is the relation the Devourer has with souls. Within RuneScape 3, Crannon's plan to summon Xau-Tak involved the collection of as many souls as they could acquire for the summoning ritual. This information came to us in a lore entry of a vile journal. Let's take a look. The ritual is reaching a crescendo. The harmony is building. It has been so long in the making that I can scarcely believe it. I have spent centuries forming the caverns to properly echo the songs. I have weathered the runes into the very rocks themselves so that they are as much a part of the ocean depths as the coral that covers them. I have forged an army of the undead, and I have placed each of them at key points around the ritual, such that the fragments that remain of their souls may act as a lens, amplifying and redirecting the ritual energies. 10,000 souls have been drawn from the afterlife, courtesy of our Terra Guardian ally, and forged into great blades with which to cut away at the walls of this universe. If only Carapac could see this now, see how impotent his science truly is. Faith is the true power, and with that faith, we will tear open a gateway to heaven, and we will bring his gaze upon us. Since Amascut is a god that deals with souls, it would make sense why Xau-Tak took interest in her, and not Zaros or Saren. Even more suspicious is the phantom found within the tombs of Amascut. For the uninitiated during the final phases of the battle with the Warden, a strange, black female figure can be seen in the rear of the battlefield. It is obvious that this is related to the Devourer, as she is seen devouring anything that cannot withstand her vortex. However, This figure is clearly depicted as some sort of corrupted or dark apparition. This does not have to mean it is related to Xau-Tak, but it would make a lot of sense if it were true. All this, however, does not address the elephant in the room. That is, why would it make sense to believe that Xau-Tak or a similar entity of Erebus would be in Frenesque? That is a difficult question that does not truly have an answer. The reasons that have led to this speculation is that it may explain why Ma is stunted and a nearly stillborn elder god, but also because of a key sentence said by Zaros within RuneScape 3. During the quest Within Light, Zaros stated, "There is a chamber in the heart of this world. Within it lie the remnants of others, like Ma, but more so. It was easy enough to find the memories. When you look carefully enough, 6 of them, 5 of form, and 1 of something else, the elder gods. So there is a 6th being that is perhaps similar to, but different from the original 5 elder gods. And this being was clearly present within the elder halls of Frenesque. The elder halls are where the elder gods lay their eggs deep within their perfect planet, a location that Amascut may have visited during her disappearance. If agents of Xau-Tak can be found within the interior of Gielinor and Renmark, it would not be much of a surprise that the same is true of Frenesque. If the elder egg of Maul was corrupted and stunted, does that mean one of the current elder eggs upon Gielinor is also infected? There's a strong possibility that this is true within RuneScape 3, as we came to learn during Azanadra's quest that Wen may potentially be the latest victim, as the Majorat states. There's another resonance on this egg, but it is not Wen's. In fact, it reminds me of, remember Zemoregel? He had a black stone he used for necromancy. He said he found it in Karamja, and the fool thought it was obsidian. It was cold to the touch, freezing in fact, and it shared the same resonance as this corruption. But Ma is dead now, and poses no threat to Gielinor. So what is Xau-Tak ultimately? While that question has no true answer, we can vaguely tell that it is meant to be some sort of horrifying and ancient abomination of a god, with inspirations from eldritch Lovecraftian horrors and Mayan gods, which are both some of the most gruesome lore to emulate. For those who have played Destiny, Xau-Tak fits similarly into RuneScape's story as the Witness does for Destiny. Xau-Tak wishes to eradicate all life on Gielinor, either out of pity for our mortal shackles or for some hidden and nefarious grand design. It may not be an elder god perhaps, but it is clearly as ancient and perhaps as powerful as they. What could this mean for the future of old school RuneScape if the story of Xau-Tak is explored further? The most obvious is the ties it has to the Lovecraftian inspirations of horrors of the seas. One could easily expect that the new sailing skill to come to RuneScape will without a shadow of a doubt explore Xau-Tak. Perhaps we'll gain access through an expansion of sailing to the ruined homeland of the Encanto dwarves, Acheron. Here we will also meet for the first time the enchantresses known as the Uspa, as well as the distinctly smaller tribe of giants. Another even more exciting prospect would be the exploration further east into the Wushenko Isles. Perhaps we may meet more Moanu adversaries that could be linked to the quests with the monkeys of Apatol, as they both were once natives of the planet Jermine. Or we could explore the story of Rabbit Jack, an evil pirate we have already meddled with throughout old school RuneScape indirectly, who is influenced by Xau-Tak. The most exciting potential is the introduction of another raid that is tied to sailing and Xau-Tak. Imagine battling against an enormous Moanu horror the size of Baba, or an eldritch abomination so warped and twisted beyond reality like the Whisperer, or even a good old fashioned pirate battle between Captain Rabbit Jack. Turning back to the mainland, we may find a twist in the story of the Majorat, where perhaps Zemoregel or Sliske are now agents of Xau-Tak's grand design. After all, both have close contact with his influence, and it is clear that a different direction is being taken with Sliske by the developers. We could see the return to the ruins of Daemonheim in a new reimagined design. Without the monotonous grind for a skill like dungeoneering, the dungeon's depths could be taken in a different direction entirely. Indirectly, Xau-Tak could lead old school RuneScape's expansions out of the plane of Gielinor. RuneScape does a rather terrible job of exploring new realms within the universe, despite how interesting they are. But old school RuneScape could pioneer some of the most exciting expansions to the game ever seen that sees us fully immersed into brand new regions that is completely foreign to anything we are used to. There are already hints that we may soon be exploring the homeland of the vampires, so this is not much different. Personally, I find the idea that even if we could, by some small amount, interact with the other gods, it would make the game a much better story to tell. Currently, it is too scared of interacting with the gods because of how RS3 has handled it. While it is true RuneScape 3 did not do a very good job of this, Old School, conversely, has the opposite problem where the knowledge that they cannot even so much as hint or create a truly interesting narrative surrounding the gods is stale and paralyzing to the excitement of the game. However, that is a story and topic for another time. That is all I have for you fine people today. I hope you all enjoyed the first of hopefully many enigmas of RuneScape, and let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to continue creating more lore related to content for RuneScape, and any show of support would help immensely. You can catch me on Twitch during my Iron Man adventures, where you are more than welcome to talk lore or anything else with me. All the links can be found below in the description. Until next time, everyone, may RNGesus bless your drops.